Hey guys, it's Scottish Dashcam here. It's a quick follow-up video from my unboxing I did on the Nextbase in-car cam hardwire kit. I'll be installing it into my 2008 Ford Fiesta, but the process should be similar whatever car you happen to drive. All you need is a basic socket set and a multimeter, but that's not 100% essential. You'll be able to get by without it. And of course, you'll need the hardwire kit itself.
So sat inside my lovely Ford Fiesta just now, just going to give you a quick overview of how I've had it set up originally. I'm obviously going to be changing that today. Dashcam's just tucked behind my rear view mirror there. I'm more towards the passenger side as I find that's the best place. I kind of keep out my eye line as much as I can. The cable just comes out the back. It's tucked pretty much under the headliner, you can't really see it. And then it's down the A-pillar, and then it's round there. I'll try and get a better view from the other side. So a quick cut over to the other side. You can see it's not the neatest way I've had it, but I knew it was just a temporary solution. So I've just tucked it kind of behind there, and it goes underneath the glove box and comes out here. And I've just been putting it in the 12 volt, which is actually having a bit of problems. And I don't know if you're able to see some nice corrosion in there, so quite annoyed at that. So I'm going to have to be replacing that at some point, but I've been having fuses cutting out, so I've not been using the dash cam as much as I could have been. Okay, so the first step really in installing a dash cam is finding out where your fuse box is located. On the Ford Fiesta, it's actually behind the glove box, so you'd just be able to see it there. I'll get it removed and I'll get a light in there, we'll have a little bit of a closer look. Okay, so now we've got access to the fuse box, we can actually have a look and see which fuses we could jump or utilise in order to have an ignition switch feed for our dash cam. Your car should have a kind of diagram like this, telling you which fuses does what, to be able to tell. Fortunately, my one it's pretty much just pictograms, but if you look at the top here, there's two marked fuses there, which correspond with these ones up here. Now if you look, there's only terminals at the bottom of it. Now let's have a look to see whether this is an ignition switched or whether it's a permanent live switch source. And for that we're going to need to pop in our fuse jumper. Okay, so first of all get your multimeter out and you want to set it to the 20 volt range, as that's going to give you the correct reading when we're looking for a 12 volt signal that this car produces. If you've got a 24 volt one, you could use that one, it'll give you fine, it'll work fine enough. It's basically just the unit, so that's your kind of, so 20 is what it's going to be measuring there rather than 200 up there. So as you can see, I've placed the fuse jumper in that side there, and I've found a negative point, main negative point there, which I've just stuck the negative probe in. So what we'll do is we'll get the positive probe, the ignition's currently off in the car, and we'll plug that in there. And as you can see, there's no reading at all. So what I'll do, I'll switch on the ignition and we'll see if that changes. Okay, so I've got the ignition on. As you can tell by the radio being on, I've got the volume down to not get YouTube copyright. As you can see, there's still 0 volts showing. That's because I don't have the positive probe in. If we put that up there, you can see it jumps to 12.22 volts, which means that is an ignition switched circuit. Okay, so just wired up everything as it would be, but obviously not hidden everything. So I've used that ground point that I was using the multimeter probe on earlier, just secure the spade connector behind that. For reference, if you have a Fiesta that was an 8mm bolt, it's going to be different on every car, and depending on where you take your ground for in your car. I've just run the cables up to the dash cam, and I will now switch the ignition on, and with any luck it will turn on. So there we have it, that's an ignition switch source. I have my camera set to turn off after 3 minutes when I turn the ignition off, which is why it's not turned off immediately. But yeah, so now the next job is to hide all of this, because that is an eyesore. Okay, so I've just finished putting in all the wiring, so just give you a quick look of how I've achieved that. I'm using the same point that I was using before. All that I've done is essentially attach a little reducer to the side of the fuse box with some Velcro, touch and close, bundle all that and use a little clip to lash it onto part of the car's existing wiring. And then I've run the cable in exactly the same manner I did before. I will eventually get some trim tools and take off these pillars, but for the moment it's pretty hidden. So what I'll do now, so I'll get the key, and turn on the ignition. And there we have it, it's an ignition switched dashcam install using the Nextbase in-car cam hardwire kit. All in all, the process probably took me about 15 minutes. It was a bit longer because I had to film stuff, but actual work in about 15 minutes, no time at all.